Hey there, Thinkers! Welcome back to another episode of Critical Hit. My name is S.
And I'm Pin.
Today we're going to review The Sound of Freedom. The Sound of Freedom is a dramatic film that is based on a true story and follows the life of Tim Ballard and his job in Homeland Security in a branch that deals with child trafficking called Operation Underground Railroad.
If you're expecting a Hollywood action movie here, you're not really going to find it. Instead, you're going to find a suspenseful, emotional, and dramatic story that shows the gritty and real-life events of such a horrific subject. It has you understanding the trials and tribulations that law enforcement have when dealing with this subject, and it also does a great job of telling the story and what happens instead of trying to be graphic. We understand what's happening to the children, and it never feels the need like it has to show us.
This movie feels heavy, but it tackles this subject in just the best way that it could. This movie is broken up into two parts, and the first part is a tad slow. It follows a brother and sister mostly, and the pacing does pick up. It always feels like the story is progressing forward. It shows that this happens on a much larger scale, and I think that we all know deep down that this happens everywhere, and we always hope that it never comes close to home. This is such a terrible subject that the movie does such a great job of drawing you into this world. It has a very gritty, real-world perspective. With the help of the music, it only further emphasizes the emotional impact, and it adds to the setting. The music in this movie hits me right in the feels, and it just left me crying like a little girl.
Jim Caviezel always puts on a fantastic performance, but it's as if every actor was perfectly chosen for their role in this movie. They all did such an amazing job. Jim Caviezel always seemed as if he was one line away from crying, but given the hardships of what he has to deal with, it feels so emotional and necessary for the context of the story. I can't remember a time I felt so choked up watching a movie.
I have to say that Jim did such a great job. It always felt like he wanted to snap and kill every human doing this. But the story never felt overblown. It always shows you that he always has to respect the law and their jurisdiction, even if it means not being able to save every child. This just enforces the fact that he has to work that much harder to be successful. And that doesn't even say that he gets all the bad guys or saves all the children, but God, does he ever try. You won't get the same big action-packed gun scene in this movie. Instead, you're giving a suspenseful end and the thought-provoking realization that this happens to over 2 million children every year.
This movie has been portrayed by the mainstream media as a right-wing conservative film, but that is not the case. There are definitely religious undertones to it, and he does say some statements like this.
Because God's children are not for sale.
But this movie never gets too preachy, and it deals with the subject matter in a nonpartisan way. Or at least what should have been a nonpartisan way. This should be important to everyone, mainstream media. It really makes me think maybe a few members in the mainstream media doth protest too much. Because I left this movie thinking that it had just touched my soul.
If this was your daughter.
Well, that's our review. This movie was fantastic and a must-watch for parents. I hesitate to give anything 5 stars or call it perfect, but this movie dances around that terrible subject with such grace and moral fortitude that I think it deserves every bit of grace and praise that it gets. This movie gets a huge recommendation from us, and it will most likely be our movie of the year.
So what did you think of the movie? Let us know what you thought in the comments, and if you want more reviews like this, remember to give us a thumbs up.
See you in the next video.
Bye guys.